My husband's sister is trying to steal my life, and no one believes me. But what happened in the end? All right, I never thought I'd be posting here, but I feel like I'm losing my mind. I need to get this off my chest because I honestly don't know what to do anymore. When I married Ryan, I thought I was gaining not just a husband, but also a new, loving family. His parents were kind, his friends were welcoming, and his sister Emma, well, Emma was intense, but I figured she was just one of those overprotective sisters who didn't like her brother getting taken away. No big deal, right? I should have paid more attention. The first red flag happened at our wedding. Nothing huge, just a small, seemingly harmless comment as she hugged Ryan at the reception. Wow, I always pictured you with someone different. It was so quick, so casual, that I barely even registered it. But something about the way she said it, the slight pause before different, made my stomach twist. Still, I brushed it off. It was a wedding. Emotions were high. I wasn't about to let one weird comment ruin our day. But then, I noticed how she acted for the rest of the night. While everyone was dancing and celebrating, Emma barely acknowledged me. Instead, she was glued to Ryan's side, whispering things to him, holding onto his arm, giving me these weird, almost challenging looks. It was like she was the one losing a husband, not gaining a sister-in-law. Again, I let it go. I told myself she was just struggling with change. After we got back from our honeymoon, though, things got worse. Emma was always around. I'm talking multiple visits a week, dropping by unannounced, bringing over food, texting Ryan at all hours. At first, I told myself she was just close with her brother, but then the comments started. Little jabs, disguised as friendly observations. Oh, Ryan used to love home-cooked meals. Does he still eat all that healthy stuff? He must miss real food. You should try wearing your hair up. That used to be his favorite style on girls. I'd laugh it off, but each time it left a bitter taste in my mouth. Ryan? He always brushed it aside. Emma's just like that. She's joking, babe. Don't take it so seriously. So, I tried not to. I told myself I was overthinking things, that I was being insecure, that Emma was just a little too attached to her brother, but it was harmless. But looking back now, that was just the beginning. At this point, I was trying really hard to be the cool wife. I didn't want to be the girl who takes a man away from his family, or the wife who starts drama with her husband's sister. So I sucked it up. I ignored the little jabs, the frequent visits, the way Emma always inserted herself into our plans. But then, weird things started happening. It began with small stuff that made me second guess myself. I'd put my phone down, only to find it in another room. A text I swore I sent to Ryan never got delivered. My favorite earrings? Gone, only to magically reappear in the bathroom drawer weeks later. At first, I chalked it up to stress. We had just moved in together. I was adjusting to married life. It made sense that I was a little scatterbrained, right? But then, it got worse. Ryan started getting upset with me over things I had no memory of saying. He'd come home annoyed, saying I was being rude over text, or that I had snapped at him earlier. The problem? I never sent those texts. I never had those conversations. One night, I grabbed his phone while we were watching TV. "Show me," I said, trying to keep my voice light. He scrolled through our messages, and sure enough, there were texts from me that I had no memory of sending. Cold texts, short, dismissive responses. Things like, "Yeah, whatever," or "I don't care." I just stared at the screen, my heart pounding. I didn't write that. Ryan sighed, rubbing his temple. "Babe, I know you've been stressed, but if something's bothering you, just tell me instead of acting weird over text." I wanted to argue, to insist that someone else had sent those messages. But how do you even prove that? My phone didn't show those texts in my sent folder. It was like they appeared out of nowhere. And then, a terrible thought hit me. Emma. She had been at our place earlier that day. She had been alone in the living room, where my phone was charging. Could she have? Number. That was crazy, right? Who would go that far? But the seed of doubt had already been planted, and I had no idea just how bad things were going to get. After the text message incident, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. But every time I tried to bring it up, Ryan would just sigh and tell me I was overthinking things. Emma's not some evil mastermind, babe. You probably just forgot. So I dropped it. Or at least I tried to. But once you start questioning things, you see everything differently. Then my email started disappearing. At first, I thought it was just bad Wi-Fi or a glitch. I'd be waiting for a work email, refreshing my inbox, and nothing. Then, when I'd ask my boss about it, he'd say, I sent it hours ago. And sure enough, when I checked my trash folder, there it was, deleted. I changed my password, twice, but it kept happening. One night, I sat on the couch with my laptop, going through my email settings. Ryan was in the kitchen, and Emma had just left after spending yet another evening at our place. I was scanning my recent activity when I saw something that made my stomach drop. A login from an unfamiliar device. I clicked on the details. The IP address, our house. I felt sick. Someone had been going through my emails. Someone in our house. I looked over at Ryan, my throat dry. Hey, did you ever log into my email? He frowned. No. Why? I hesitated. I knew how this was going to sound. Crazy. Paranoid. But I had to ask. Do you think Emma might have? Ryan groaned, shutting the fridge. Jesus, again with this? Why would Emma care about your emails? I didn't know, but I knew it wasn't me. And that meant someone else had access. I didn't say anything else that night, but I started keeping my laptop with me at all times. My phone too. I wasn't taking any chances. Then, a week later, I went to grab my birth control pills from the bathroom cabinet, and the pack was gone. I tore through drawers, checked my purse, even dug through the trash in case I had accidentally thrown them out. Nothing. Ryan found me searching under the sink, looking completely unhinged. What are you doing? I stood up, heart pounding. My birth control. It's missing. He blinked. Didn't you just refill it? I nodded slowly. Exactly. It was here yesterday. Ryan shrugged. Maybe you misplaced it. I wanted to scream. I didn't misplace it. I never moved it from that cabinet, and suddenly a terrifying realization hit me. Emma had been over, alone in the bathroom. I felt my skin crawl. If she had taken them, then why? And what else had she done? After the birth control incident, I stopped making excuses. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't me being forgetful. Something was seriously wrong. But the worst part? I had no proof. No cameras in the house. No way to show that Emma was behind any of this. And Ryan? He was so deep in Emma can do no wrong mode that I knew if I brought it up without solid evidence, I'd just look even more irrational. So I started paying closer attention. Watching Emma. Watching Ryan when she was around. Then came the night that changed everything. It was around 3 a.m. when I woke up suddenly, like my body knew something was off before my mind did. The room was pitch black except for the soft glow from the streetlight outside. At first, everything seemed normal. The house was silent. Ryan was still asleep beside me. I was about to roll over when my eyes adjusted to the dark. And that's when I saw her, Emma, standing inside our bedroom. She was barely a few feet away, just watching me. Perfectly still, hands at her sides, not moving, not speaking. My entire body locked up, my heartbeat slamming in my chest. For a few seconds, I couldn't breathe, couldn't even think. Then, in the quietest, softest whisper, she finally spoke. You're so lucky. It sent a chill down my spine. Before I could react, I jerked upright, my hand flying toward Ryan. He groaned as I shoved him awake, but by the time I turned on the lamp, Emma was gone. The doorway was empty. The hall was silent. There was no sound of retreating footsteps, no movement anywhere in the house. I scrambled out of bed, my hands trembling as I checked the hallway. the front door, even the bathroom. Everything was locked. There was no sign that anyone else had been inside. Ryan sat up groggily, rubbing his eyes as he asked what was wrong. I could barely get the words out. I had seen Emma standing right next to me, just staring. But the second I said it, his face twisted with doubt. He barely even hesitated before brushing it off. She was probably sleepwalking, he said. She'd done it before. It wasn't a big deal. My hands clenched into fists. How could he just dismiss it so easily? How could he not see how insane this was? That night, I locked our bedroom door, and every night after that. But one thing was clear. Emma wasn't just weird. She wasn't just overprotective. She wanted my life, and she was getting bolder. After that night, something in me shifted. Before, I had tried to be reasonable, to convince myself that maybe I was overreacting, that maybe Emma was just a little too attached to Ryan, a little too involved in our lives. Not anymore. The moment I saw her standing in our bedroom, everything clicked. This wasn't just overprotectiveness. This wasn't just jealousy. Emma wanted something. My place in Ryan's life. And I wasn't imagining it. I started locking the bedroom door every night, double-checking the front door before bed, keeping my phone and laptop with me at all times. I stopped leaving my things unattended when Emma was around. But no matter how cautious I was, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was always one step ahead. Then, a week later, I found the ring. It was a Sunday afternoon. Ryan was outside working on the yard, and I was folding laundry when I noticed Emma had left her jacket draped over the couch. She had stopped by earlier, unannounced as usual, just to check in on Ryan while he worked. Normally, I wouldn't have given it a second thought, but as I picked up her jacket to move it, I heard a small clink. Something had fallen out of the pocket. At first, I thought it was just loose change or a button, but when I bent down to grab it, my stomach dropped. It was my wedding ring. For a second, I just stood there, frozen. My fingers went straight to my left hand, expecting to feel the familiar weight of the ring I had never taken off since our wedding day. But it was gone. My breath caught in my throat. It hadn't fallen off. I would have noticed. I would have felt it. I had been wearing it that morning. I was sure of it. My hands clenched around the ring as my mind raced. Emma had been in the house earlier, alone for at least 20 minutes while Ryan was outside. She had taken it. I felt sick. There was no logical reason for her to have my wedding ring in her pocket. No innocent explanation. She hadn't found it somewhere and planned to return it. She hadn't picked it up by mistake. She had stolen it. And what disturbed me the most? She hadn't kept it. She hadn't taken it with her. She had put it back, like she wanted me to know, like she was trying to tell me something. I clenched the ring in my fist and took a shaky breath. This was it, the proof I needed. Emma wasn't just messing with me. She wanted my life. And now I had to find a way to stop her. Finding my wedding ring in Emma's jacket pocket should have been the moment everything came crashing down, the undeniable proof that Ryan couldn't ignore. This was it. She had crossed the line, and now there was no way he could keep making excuses for her. Or at least, that's what I thought. I stormed outside, my heart pounding in my chest. Ryan was on his knees in the garden, pulling weeds, completely unaware that his sister had just confirmed every nightmare I'd been having. I didn't even try to soften it. I just held up the ring and said, "Explain this." Ryan glanced up, squinting against the sun before his gaze dropped to my clenched fist. His brows furrowed. "Your ring? What about it?" I swallowed hard, barely keeping my voice steady. "I just found it in Emma's jacket pocket, the jacket she left on our couch." For a moment, I saw it, the flicker of doubt in his eyes, the hesitation, that split second where my words actually landed. And then, just as quickly, it was gone. Ryan sighed and stood up, brushing dirt off his hands. "Come on, babe. I'm sure there's an explanation." My grip tightened. "What kind of explanation? Why would she have my wedding ring?" He shook his head, running a hand through his hair. Maybe she found it somewhere and meant to give it back? I let out a short, humorless laugh. Then why didn't she? Ryan hesitated. I could see the gears turning in his head, grasping for any excuse that didn't mean admitting his sister was unhinged. And then, as if on cue, the back door creaked open. Emma stood in the doorway, her face carefully neutral. But I knew better now. I knew how she operated. There was a glint of satisfaction in her eyes, a slight curve at the corner of her lips. Ryan turned to her, holding up the ring. Hey, Em, did you find this somewhere? Her expression shifted instantly, morphing into something wounded. Hurt. Like she couldn't believe she was being accused of something so awful. Oh my God, she whispered, stepping forward. I was going to tell you. I found it on the bathroom counter earlier and put it in my pocket so I wouldn't forget to give it back. She turned to me with wide, innocent eyes. I should have told you right away. I'm so sorry. I wasn't thinking. It was flawless. The perfect mix of regret and confusion. And Ryan? He bought it. Just like that, the doubt vanished from his face. He exhaled, shaking his head as if this whole thing had just been a simple misunderstanding. See? It was nothing. I wanted to scream. I knew she was lying. She had stolen it straight from my hand, and now had the nerve to pretend she was doing me a favor. But if I pushed harder, if I accused her outright, I knew how it would go. Emma would start crying. Ryan would get defensive. I'd be the bad guy. I had proof, and it still didn't matter. So I forced myself to nod. I shoved the ring back onto my finger and muttered a quiet thanks, but inside, I was boiling. Because now I knew two things for sure. Emma wasn't just playing games anymore, and if I wanted Ryan to finally see the truth, I needed a new plan. Emma had won this round. She had stolen my ring, gaslit me in front of Ryan, and walked away completely unscathed. But I wasn't stupid. I knew exactly what she was doing. She was playing the long game, slowly chipping away at my sanity, at my marriage, waiting for the moment I finally snapped so that she could step in and play the role of the perfect woman in Ryan's life. Well, if she wanted to play games, I was done playing fair. I needed proof, real, undeniable proof that even Ryan couldn't ignore. Something she couldn't twist, couldn't lie her way out of. So I set a trap. The next time Emma came over, I made a show of leaving my phone unattended on the kitchen counter. I accidentally mentioned that I needed to reply to a work email, but had gotten distracted. Then I walked out of the room, leaving it there, unlocked. And then I waited. Sure enough, when I peeked through the crack in the doorway, I saw her. Emma glanced toward the hallway, checking if I was still nearby. When she thought the coast was clear, she reached for my phone. Her fingers moved quickly, navigating through my apps like she'd done it 100 times before. She knew my passcode. My stomach twisted, but I forced myself to stay put. If I barged in now, she'd just make up another excuse. I needed to see what she was doing, and then I saw it. She opened my text messages and started deleting conversations. Not just any conversations, my messages with Ryan. I clenched my fists, barely holding in my rage. She was erasing proof of our past arguments, rewriting history so that when Ryan thought back on certain moments, the texts wouldn't back me up. And then she did something even worse. She started texting Ryan from my phone. I couldn't see the screen, but I knew exactly what she was doing. She was planting more fake messages, probably something short and dismissive, something to make it seem like I was being distant or cold. She was trying to turn him against me, bit by bit. That was it. I had enough. I stepped into the kitchen, making sure my footsteps were loud enough for her to hear. Emma's head snapped up like a deer caught in headlights. She fumbled to put the phone down, but it was too late. I gave her a slow, knowing smile. "Oh," I said, tilting my head. "What are you doing with my phone?" Emma blinked rapidly, forcing a laugh. "Oh, it lit up. And I thought maybe you got an important text from work. I was just checking for you. Liar. I kept my expression calm, my voice casual. That's sweet of you, but you don't have to do that. I walked over and picked up the phone, careful to keep my fingers away from the screen. I didn't want to risk deleting whatever she had just sent. She was watching me, looking for any sign that I was onto her. So I just smiled and said, "Thanks for looking out for me." Emma beamed, relieved that I wasn't making a scene. But inside, I was boiling. She thought she had gotten away with it, but what she didn't know was that I had set up screen recording. Every single thing she had done, deleting texts, sending messages to Ryan, had been recorded. And this time, she wasn't talking her way out of it. I had her. Finally. Every message she deleted, every fake text she sent to Ryan, it was all caught on my phone's screen recording. No more misunderstandings. No more gaslighting. This time, I had proof, but I didn't confront her right away. I knew Emma was a master manipulator, and if I came at her without a solid plan, she'd just twist it into another sob story. So instead, I played along, pretending everything was normal. That night, I waited until Emma left, then walked into the bedroom where Ryan was already lying down, scrolling through his phone. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice casual. "Can I see our text from today?" Ryan frowned, confused. "Why?" I shrugged. "Just checking something." Still skeptical, he handed me his phone. I opened our chat, and there it was. The fake messages Emma had sent. Short, cold responses that I never wrote. I turned my own phone around and pressed play on the recording. I watched as Ryan's face changed. First confusion, then shock, then something else. Betrayal. The video showed everything. Emma opening my messages, deleting conversations, sending fake replies to him. Ryan's grip on his phone tightened as he watched. She actually... His voice trailed off. I stayed silent, letting the reality sink in. For the first time, he couldn't deny it. Emma had been manipulating him. Manipulating us. I finally spoke. "This isn't the first time, Ryan. The missing texts? My emails disappearing? My birth control? My wedding ring? It was all her." His face paled. "The ring. I defended her." I nodded. "You did." Ryan set his phone down and exhaled, running a hand over his face. "I need to talk to her." And he did. The next day, he called Emma over, and, for the first time, I let him handle it. I stood back as he confronted her, laying out every single thing she had done. At first, Emma denied everything. She cried, played the victim, swore she didn't remember sending the texts, but when Ryan showed her the video, her face drained of color. She was caught, and she knew it. She tried to backpedal, claiming she was just trying to protect him, and that I didn't deserve him. That's when Ryan lost it. He told her she wasn't welcome in our house anymore, that she needed serious help, and that until she got it, she was out of his life. I wish I could say she left quietly. She didn't. She screamed at me, calling me a manipulative liar, but Ryan shut her down every time. When she finally left, slamming the door behind her, I let out the biggest breath of relief. For the first time in months, I felt safe in my own home. It took time, but Ryan and I worked through it. He apologized, over and over, for not seeing it sooner, for defending her, for letting it go as long as he did. And while I'm still working on forgiving him completely, one thing is for sure. Emma is out of our lives. For good.